Okay, welcome. My name is Dr. Marjorie Nussbaum, and I'm the Equity and Extension Coordinator for Blue PC Iowa College. I'm an educator, former organic farmer, and the mother of 7 children. Excuse me. Over the years of farming and marketing, it became sadly evident that homesteading skills and cultural knowledge have been mostly forgotten. As a society, we have lost the knowledge of how food is grown, and we have come to rely on packaged and prepared foods for meal making. While this may sound outlandish, I actually had someone ask how we got the shells on our eggs. And likewise, people asked how to cook a chicken, how to prepare and cook fresh green beans, and what cheese is made of. And I got a lot of other questions too. In times like those in which we are living, where the prices of food have risen astronomically, I want to share my knowledge of how to make nutritious and delicious foods on a tight budget. How did I come by this knowledge? Well, I grew up with my mother's admonition, waste not, want not, and I hated that, yet learned much from her. Additionally, feeding my large family and usually hired hands as well taught me a great deal about cooking and eating on a budget. So let's get started. So the workshop overview, we're going to look at a guide to make healthy food and in mind that we don't want to spend any more than we absolutely have to. So you can, in other words, you can make your penny sweet. So, so let's start out with a little bit of science, the 7 nutritional requirements. So those would be for adults and children, carbohydrates. So that would be things like even down to sugars and honey, also bread, crackers, rice, things like that. Protein can come from meat, but it also can be found in beans and other products. Fats, and we've been told, oh my gosh, don't eat any fat at all, you'll gain all this weight and whatever. But we do need some fats in order for our systems to work. So vitamins, minerals, fiber, and water, of course. So this healthy eating plate, you can see it's divided into quadrants. So the amount of vegetables that you should be eating per day takes up a little more than a quarter. Fruits, a little less than a quarter. Healthy protein, about a quarter, and whole grains. So that would be brown rice. That would be whole grain pastas and things like that. And then, of course, there's some healthy oils and some water in there in limited amounts. So some of this may be kind of routine for you, and yet I really found that when I was, because we were marketing our farm products as well, so if you were farmers, we were also marketing. And we had delivery trucks and so forth, and I took on a lot of calls and found that people honestly did not know what these were. So if you can hang in there with me, I will run through these kind of quickly. So carbohydrates are the body's main source of energy. There'll be whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. Excuse me. Protein, that's essential for building and repairing tissues, making enzymes and hormones, and supporting our immune function. So that would be lean meats and fish, eggs, beans, and nuts. And then some other foods have some in them as well. Fats provide energy, support cell growth, protect our organs, and help to absorb certain vitamins. Olive oil, canola oil, nuts, and seeds are good ways to get those. So notice I've put in there just olive oil and canola oil. Those two are the best oils. And it's pretty cheap to get, like just vegetable oil or whatever, but a lot of that is processed, heavily processed and so forth. So if you have any choices at all, I would say canola oil and nuts. Vitamins, organic compounds needed in small quantities for a wide range of metabolic functions, and a wide variety of unprocessed foods is their source. Minerals, those are inorganic substances that are crucial for bone health, fluid balance, nerve function, and other processes in a wide variety of unprocessed foods. Again, that's where you find them. Fiber that aids in digestion, promotes gut health. It helps to grow a good, friendly bacteria within your gut. And helps manage blood sugar levels. So if you are diabetic, then you definitely want to make sure that you're having plenty of fiber in your diet. So it comes from fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and then water, of course, is necessary for all bodily functions, including regulating our temperature, transporting nutrients, and moving waste. And little off topic here, but yeah, I was always the kid that my mom didn't want to have to take potty. So she always limited my water. And then I was a teacher for years and years and years. And if you know anything about being a teacher, you don't get bathroom breaks. And so I learned to limit my water, and now I have to be very mindful about drinking water because I don't even realize that I'm thirsty. So be mindful of that, particularly in the hot season. So let's do some steps here to build this. So step number one, you're going to be planning like a pro. So there's two strategies to making healthy budget friendly meals. So you can do the weekly meal planning, and some people really like to do that. They stick to it. You know, on Monday night, we're gonna have this, and Tuesday, we're gonna do this, and whatever. Personally, it's not for me. I'm rather random. And so, but you're gonna plan basic meals and shop weekly. This option works well with a large family because if you have leftovers, then you know how to get rid of them. And you can, I mean, it works if that's how you like to roll. This option works well when you live paycheck to paycheck because you're having to go to the store once a week or whatever. I keep a well-stocked pantry. This is what I believe in, and you can choose whatever you want to or make it up in between. Create meals as you go using what you have on hand. And that's one of the keys that I'm always into is using what you have on hand. And we'll talk a little bit later about managing what's in your refrigerator, managing, watching, you know, is it something like that? I gotta use it up. How can I create a meal out of this? So you're going to be implementing this option. And it means that you have the ability to buy ahead, buy in bulk, and take advantages of sales. And so, you know, if oatmeal is on sale for a week, then you can load up on that and have it in your pantry. If you've got enough space, you kind of have to customize it by the size of your family, what people eat, and so forth. It's especially good for small families where there may be a considerable amount of leftovers from a recipe, and I always call mine, they're not leftovers, they are planned overs. So that actually worked with my kids. It's like, oh yeah, we like that, so yeah, we'll eat it again. This option also reduces the number of trips you make to the grocery, thus saving time and fuel, which in this situation is really needed. So to get started, you're going to consider these questions. How many people are you cooking for? You got three, yeah. Okay. I'm down from 7 kids to me, that's it. So what is the age of those you're feeding, baby, yeah, baby, toddler, teen, etc., and how active are they? So if you are raising a 16-year-old and they play sports and they just move a lot, then you're gonna have to take that in stride when you're planning your meals or what you're going to cook. Do your school age children get free or reduced lunches? Um, does anyone in the family have food allergies? And after paying all of your other obligations, how much money will you have left to spend on groceries? That's going to be a huge factor. I have been in that situation. I've been on food stamps twice in my life. And, sometimes it was like, okay, what do we have on hand? What can we do with this? I have a limited amount of money to buy other things to supplement, what food stamps didn't provide and so forth. So, again, you're gonna wanna customize this yourself and for your family. Further making budget-friendly meal strategies, you're gonna want to at least have some meal planning. So, excuse me. Make a meal planning template, and you can see it here in your packet if you are here, and we just have one person today. But I can put that up for you as well, or you can ask for a packet later on if you've joined us by via Zoom. So you're going to make that template and pencil in the meals that you want to make. If you're planning on following a recipe, earmark it for easy access, and that's going to be in your favorite cookbook or something that you picked out of a magazine or out of a newspaper or Auntie Gertrude's beans or whatever it is, you need to know what things you need to have. Check your refrigerator, your freezer, and your cupboards for ingredients you're going to need. I was talking to my daughter the other day, and she's a single mom. And somewhere along the line, she managed to get a small deep freeze. And I said, well, what do you have in there? She said, oh, I just kind of think it kind of just is gonna last forever. And I said, do you ever have, food spoil in there, like it gets, freezer burn, which is drying out? And she said, yeah, and then I have to throw it away. It's like, well, then you're not spending your time and you're not using your stuff. So take an inventory if you have to. Take an inventory, and when you use something out of it, nick it off. Whatever helps you to know what you've got. To keep your budget happy, modify your planner if the needed ingredients are too expensive, or make substitutions. So if it calls for some cheese that it's like $1 billion a chunk. And it's like, nah, we're not doing that. So you're gonna get really savvy about making substitutions. Then make a list of anything you need to purchase. A lot of this stuff is, I know, I already know, but considering how many times I've had people ask me, well, how do you make this? Or so I'm going. Please don't be insulted. I'm not going along as if you're stupid, but I do want to make sure that I catch everybody. So step number 2, you can be shopping like a pro. So when making a list of items needed for the week's meals, check for other things you know you are running low on: salt, cooking oil, milk, etc. I have when I was feeding all my kids, I had what was called the extra shelf. And if I ran out of cinnamon and used the last of it, then that I knew that I always had it back up on my shelf. When I took something off that shelf, that item went on to the grocery list so that I knew that I could replenish it. I can't do that now because it's just me and I would have stale things, so that doesn't work well for a small family or for a single person, but you can still modify it. So in the store, you're gonna stick to your list. I know, I know. The only reasons not to stick to your list are, you realize you forgot to put something very important on your list. Diverge from it, and you find a good sale on something that you will need in the future. Otherwise, don't be enticed by all the pretty, well-packaged foods in the grocery. Stick to your list. And we're gonna get back to that in a moment, but I want you to consider modern food, look at what is available and what you should and should not buy. So you can see on the left-hand side that we have a lot of prepackaged, made food, that is processed nearly to death. And then, of course, on the right side, there's pizzas, there's burgers, there's, all these things that you can buy in the store, and it's not gonna help your budget at all. So you need to really begin to, think about, okay, gee, I'd love to stop at McDonald's and get something because I'm hungry. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not gonna die of hunger. I can guarantee you I've got enough fat on me that I'm not going to. And think about some of the things that you routinely buy and consider, by reading the labels among other things, and we will go into that in a moment. But you don't need to have these processed foods. You're going to be healthier and your budget is going to work a much better way. So let's look at what are the key reasons for unhealthy food in America. Which usually a lot of unhealthy foods are really expensive, so not always, which entices people to, eat things that they probably shouldn't eat. But it was hard when I made this presentation about, well, are we talking about healthy or and unprocessed, how does this work out? So again, if you ever need to ask questions, you're welcome to do so. Just go to the website, Little Peace Tribal College, and you will find other extension and equity and extension, sorry. You'll find me there and you can make contact with me. So the prevalence of ultra processed foods, these foods make up over half of the caloric intake for many adults and for even more children. So that means that processed foods are dominant in a lot of people's menu. And when I was teaching in Washington, D.C., kids would stop at the corner store and buy bags full of snacks and candy, and then when they did get served a nutritious lunch, they threw things at each other. So which I'm not a teacher anymore. These are foods like sugary breakfast cereals, packaged snacks, prepackaged meals that are high in added sugars, unhealthy fats, and sodium, but low in nutritional value. So let's face it, the food industry is there to make money. They're not there to keep you healthy or they want your money. And so, for instance, the unhealthy fats, instead of using things like olive oil and other things that are healthy, they use tallow and other things that are really very bad for you, and but you're spending a lot of money for it. So that's what I'm trying to tell you here. What are the key reasons? Number two, marketing and accessibility. The food industry aggressively markets the more lucrative processed foods. And when I actually did a research paper when I was in school, college, and I looked at advertising for people and how much it's used and the ways that it's used, all the way from having extremely skinny people eating very rich foods and apparently not gaining a thing. It had it it focused on women's bodies and just there were so many things. So as a side note, you might want to go and look at some of the advertising, maybe from the television, in a magazine, um, billboards, whatever it is, and they don't show the real world. So that's tangled in this stuff. The food industry uses processed foods because they're often cheaper and more readily available than fresh whole foods. And this makes it difficult, but not impossible for consumers, especially those with limited budgets, to make healthier choices. So often people say, well, my kids are full, they're not hungry, so that's okay. And that's part of taking care of your family, but also the cheaper food is made out of a lot of sugars and bad fats and so forth. So you do not need to give up good food for this. Large portion sizes. So the standard American diet often includes very large portion sizes, which contributes to higher caloric intake and weight gain. And we're always tantalized in stores like, where do they keep the candy bars? At the checkout, right? Okay. Where do they, where do they keep the sodas? A lot of those are there as well, unless they're in bulk. So it is, oh, you can have this, this is just one can, one bar, whatever, and you end up with a large amount of calories taken in. So what are the key reasons for unhealthy food? Number four, historical dietary guidelines. And as a scientist myself, I know that science changes over time, and people get really bent about that because it's like, well, the scientists say that this is, well, no, science is flexible, so that when we learn something new that's going to help us, we can ditch that old idea about what is true. For instance, and this is from a long time ago, but it used to be thought that the sun rotates around the earth. And even the church said, yeah, that's it. And when people started saying, I don't think so, then there were some people that died over that one. And so they weren't really willing to change their ideas. So science is not stuck in concrete. We change as we go. So in the past, nutritional guidelines discouraging dietary fat were based on what are now considered flawed studies. And that's how you learn about things. You do studies on people, groups of people, whatever. And they may have put it together wrong. So that's probably number one about fat consumption. This inadvertently led to a shift towards consuming more sugar and refined grains because, well, okay, let's face it, a little butter, whatever it is, makes something taste really good. And when you take that away, it's kind of blah. And so people started adding salt, sugar, refined grains, anything to kind of zip up the food because we cannot eat fat. In turn, this contributed to an increase in consumption of processed foods. Number 5, systemic issues. The American food system often incentivizes the production of calorie-dense, low-nutrient foods because they are what? Profitable. And again, everybody is out there to get your money, and I sound like an idiot, I know. But yeah, the food systems want your money. And so they make these calorie dense, very sugary, high salt, high fat, low nutrient foods because they can make more money from them. They make more money from chips than they do from potatoes. And yeah, they're basically the same thing. The agricultural practices inherent in big ag can degrade soil quality, impacting the nutrient density of crops grown. So there's a lot of artificial instead of putting good nutrients on your fields because you're a smaller farmer and you can do that. We now have people that are um, farming thousands of acres, hundreds and thousands of acres, and they can't do that. So they require a lot of chemical inputs. And some of them are beneficial and some of them really are not. Some of them are actually toxic, but that's another day for another conversation. But so they basically run the soil out and it doesn't give the plants or whatever it is as much nutrition. So getting back to shopping like a pro, at the store, keep in mind how grocers get you to buy products they offer. Looks familiar? They kind of crossed out some of the brands and whatever they smeared over them. In this picture, it may actually be an AI, it probably is an AI picture, but American grocery stores are set up to entice you to buy what they are selling. And you don't even realize it. So these include eye-catching displays and packaging. Look at all the colors in those packaging. Strategic placement of items, promises of convenience and addictive, tongue-tingling taste. So yeah, chips with lots of salt or whatever it is, it's really good. Tastes wonderful, and notice they often are in places where you can quickly pick them up. Smart shopping requires basic nutritional knowledge, budgeting, and planning, and willpower. All these packaged foods are, first of all, processed. They're probably not very healthy, and they're expensive. So step number 3, choosing pantry staple foods like a pro. Which staple foods you stock up on should be determined by your family's preferences and size. If somebody has a food allergy or somebody's like, I'm not eating that, you can try to reduce it, but you might not want to buy a whole lot of it. The cost of individual items, so watch for sales. The shelf life of the ingredients. Again, I live by myself, and that means that if I have gas, then it's going to go stale on me. So, that you have to, even though you're spending less to get bulk, there's no reason to do that if it's going to spoil anyway. How much room you have to store foods. So if you don't have very much room, then you're either going to have to rethink your house or you're going to have to not buy as much. The amount of money you have at the time, even if funds are limited, you may need to slowly stock up over time. And I've been accused of being a homesteader, and I don't really think I quite am, but I kind of am. So, all right. So, I like to have some things on hand so that I know that we could get snowed in, we could lose our electricity. The supermarkets might go crazy, whatever. So, some things that you One make, you might want to buy store-bought ones, particularly if it's just you. They're convenient, they're time-saving, consistent size, good for small families. The cons are they cost more, they're made with unknown origins, and so again, I'm gonna teach you how to read a label, and unwanted ingredients. I'm made from scratch. Well, the pros are you know what the origin of the product is. There's no artificial ingredients, and yep, you can polish your fingernails and say, I made this all myself. The pride cons, it may not be cost effective. For instance, grains and flours. So you're probably not going to grow a field of wheat and harvest it and mill it and all that stuff to make flour. That's probably not going to happen. If you can, that's great, but you probably aren't going to have enough time for that. And they're time consuming to make. So you have to balance your products in that you keep. Get in the habit of reading the labels. And I used to be that, when I was a kid, because I'm 1,000,000,000 years old, when I was a kid, it just said pumpkin or, like soup or something like that. And you had no idea what was in it. And people began to demand, partly because of food allergies, and also they wanted to know how healthy it was. So they began to demand that they would be labeled, and usually country of origin and so forth. And it's right now, that's what we have. It could change, but right now, that's what we have. So you're going to want to read those labels and uh, from, you're going to look at them, you can start with the nutritional facts and look how much sugar, how much carbohydrates and so forth. You want to understand the health claim requirements. So low fat, that would be 3 grams or less of fat per serving. Fat free, less than 0.5 grams of fat per serving with no additional fat or oil. Saturated fat free, less than 0.5 grams of saturated fat. And that then of course cholesterol free. I'm not gonna read all of these, but low cholesterol, reduced calories, so that has to be at least 25% lower than the regular product. Extra lean, less than 5 grams of fat, that would be like poultry and other meats. Light, and sometimes they spell it LITE, 50% or less of the fat than in the comparison food. Light in calories, the 1/3 fewer calories, high fiber, sugar free, but we do like that sweet taste. So if something is sugar free, then it probably is going to have an artificial sweetener in there. And some of those are really not very good for us either. So it would be better to choose low sugar foods than to go with sugar free. Sodium free or salt free, less than 5 milligrams of sodium per serving. This would be important for people with heart conditions and other things. Gluten free, that would be for someone who is allergic to gluten. And organic, it must contain 95% organic ingredients. And having been an organic farmer, we always, we were able to, but we checked every year. We went through an inspection every year, had to provide all of our records as far as what we sold. If we grew it, we had to be able to trace the seeds that we bought all the way through to the time that we turned it over to the food co-op, the restaurant, or the mainstream grocery. So should have food allergy labeling. So perhaps it's going to announce that there are nuts in there, because some people have a severe particularly peanuts allergies. And they have to contain the common name of the product. It can't be the long scientific name, name and address of the manufacturer, the net contents in terms of weight, measure, or count, the serving sizes, and ingredient list and nutrition facts. So that's something that you should be doing regular basis. Yes, it slows you down, but once you want to check them every once in a while because companies will change their ingredients, but at least you know pretty much, well, I can buy that brand and I'm not going to be having a problem. Suggested budget-friendly pantry staples. So dry goods would be a variety of dry legumes, such as pinto, black, navy, great northern, kidney beans, split peas, and lentils. And you can get a wide variety of beans and they're called legumes. Um, Whole grains such as brown rice, whole grain pasta, barley, cornmeal, quinoa, and old-fashioned oats. Don't get those pre-cooked ones. A lot of the nutrition has been taken out of them and they turn into paste anyway. So whole wheat pasta, whole wheat and white flour, cornmeal, brown and white sugar, yeast, baking powder, and baking soda. So canned items you might want to consider keeping in bulk would be canned legumes, the cans of, for instance, kidney beans or chickpeas or whatever. They're less than $1 a can. I shop at Aldi. And so they're nice to have on hand because you don't have to cook them. And that's a slightly, it's easy to use and it's a slight degrade from doing it yourself. But again, your time is limited. Canned fruits and vegetables, again, it's nice to have those fresh ones, but if you don't have access to them, then canning is good. Seasonings such as salt, pepper, spices, and herbs, it makes your food taste so much better. Dry milk powder, that's a little hard to find, but when we get to our cookbook section, they suggest that you add this for extra protein, particularly for growing children. Bouillon or powder in cubes. Vinegar is always good if you can, and the water is very, very hard here. You can dump a little bit of it into your canner and it will keep the calcium and stuff from growing on your jars. So and it's great for pickling. It's made great for making salad dressings and so forth. Oils such as olive and canola, peanut butter, preferably the not the no stir type. And yeah, it's gonna be more expensive, but they put in artificial oils into the like Jiffy or whatever. And there's other brands too, and I'm not picking on anybody, but that just came to mind. They put in oils that keep the peanut particles in place so that you don't have to do stirring. So but peanut butter is a good source of protein, and my favorite breakfast is chopped up apple, a little bit of cinnamon, the honey, but cook that down with add oats to it, and then I put a small spoon of peanut butter into it. So it holds me through the day, and it's an inexpensive way of eating breakfast. Tips for storing your staples. Bulk items like beans, rice, and rolled oats store best in glass jars. So I know that you all that might be listening can't see this, but I have one for my one person here. You can go to, if you have a restaurant in town, you can ask for them to save the big jars like this. You can go and buy them if you really want to, but they're kind of pricey. And the stores the restaurants would throw those out anyway. The one that I have here is plastic, and plastic is okay for not something that you're going to keep for a long, long period of time. The reason being that plastic can off gas, meaning that it puts out in very small amounts toxins into the food that it's contained in, so, if you can buy in glass jars, it's better. I also keep my stuff in coffee cans, so, I buy, the cans of coffee with the plastic lids. And I will keep beans and things like that in there. They're not, yeah, there's a plastic lid on it, but it's not in direct contact with the food. So, and be sure to label those. And again, we talked about an extras cupboard, that was way up in the beginning and. Hang on. And, so you always, that you're not gonna run out of something and then have to go to the store to get it. Which wastes time and fuel, so. When something is removed, add the item to your shopping list. So, I'm gonna put a little plug in here for our gardening and food preservation workshops. If you're already a gardener and or someone who cans, freezes, and dehydrates food for future use, you have a leg up on stocking your pantry. If not, I'm going to encourage you to join our upcoming gardening and food preservation